chill debate. Open up the debates.
Open up the debate. Open up the debates. Let's chill debate. Open up the debates.
Woo! Thank you everybody for coming out. The reason we're here is to protest what the League of Women Voters called a fraud perpetuated on the American people when they were muscled out of sponsoring presidential debates in 1988 by the two corporate party cartel. We're outside Clinton's campaign headquarters, not because we're picking on Clinton any more than Trump, but because she's the only one with a campaign headquarters here in the city. And you know, these campaign headquarters don't matter much compared to the debates that'll happen tonight, when 100 million people will tune in and two legitimate candidates who are on almost all the ballots in the country are not in the debate. I'm referring to Jill Stein and the Libertarian Party candidate, Gary Johnson. The Commission on Presidential Debates sounds like a nonpartisan or government agency, but in fact it's a private corporation set up by the Democratic and Republican parties to control the presidential debates and keep third parties out. In fact, when they announced the commission in 1987, the chair of the Republican National Committee, Frank Fahrenkopf, and the chair of the Democratic National Committee, Paul Kirk, said third parties should be excluded from presidential debates. And those two men remain to this day co-chairs of this commission. Other board members are all current or former Democratic and Republican office holders, very rich people like Howard Buffett, Warren's son, and corporate media mouthpieces like Charles Gibson. It has insiders. The Clinton campaign has two of them who were former chiefs of staff for Bill Clinton and his administration, Matt McLarty and Leon Panetta. So this is a real insider game, and it's a shame that the media allows them to get away with it.
My name's Mary House. I live here in Syracuse. I'm one of the state committee members for the Green Party of New York and an executive committee member for the Green Party of New York. We're here today to put pressure on Hillary Clinton and the Democratic Party to open up the debates, because it's an undemocratic process to keep third-party candidates out of the debates and to silence voices who are going to be a choice for the American people. The American people deserve to know who they can vote for this election season and what stances that these people, the politicians have. And one of the best ways to do that is through the debates, because it's one of the biggest parts of a candidate's campaign is being on the debates, being on a national stage where they have the most press coverage and the most people tuning in to hear about who they're going to vote for. So I feel that it's a complete undemocratic process, especially with the fact that the Commission for Presidential Debates is not a true federal office, that it's a corporation that was started by the Democratic and Republican parties in 1987, and they choose 5 national polls, and that's 5 polls that third-party candidates need to hit 15% or more on. They choose these polls, so they could choose polls that have higher percentage rates, but they could choose not to. There's no actual law on that. It's just whatever they want to choose. So they can keep people out of the debates. And also with the fact of the lack of media attention to third-party candidates, it's very hard for a lot of people to hit on the polls. So I feel like it's a complete injustice to the American people that the two major parties are silencing voices and basically promoting undemocratic processes through keeping the debates closed. We need more voices, we need more choices, and we need to hear other issues that basically third-party candidates are going to bring up that you're not going to hear in the debates today.
Thank you.
Yep.
My name is Ursula Rosam, and I'm with the Green Party of New York. We're out here in front of the Hillary Clinton headquarters in Syracuse, rallying for open debates. The first thing I would say is that there is actually a debate crisis in the U.S. Candidates for office, up and down levels of government, refuse to participate in debates with their opponents. which I think is a huge disservice to democracy, that voters don't get to hear from all the candidates on the ballot running to represent them. And without Jill Stein in the televised debates, there's going to be major issues that voters just don't hear about. All we're going to hear tonight on the debate stage is drill, baby, drill when it comes to climate and energy policy. Hillary Clinton, as Secretary of State, was a main exporter of fracking around the world. For example, here in New York State, we fought hard to ban fracking, but we're still fighting fracking infrastructure. And unfortunately, without a voice like Jill Stein on the debate stage, we are not going to hear any alternatives for an energy future. Policies that the American public wants just aren't going to get discussed tonight. For example, 58% of the U.S. public supports universal health care as a human right in the form of expanded Medicare for all. Yet, all we're going to hear about is from Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump is maintaining the status quo where insurance companies control the healthcare system, for example. I wouldn't expect any less. Some people might remember that Blue Cross Blue Shield was a major corporate sponsor of the Democratic National Convention, for example. So without the voices of third-party candidates in debates, we can't really expect to hear anything different other than the policies of status quo that have brought us war, global warming, and just concentration of wealth in the United States. So we're out here fighting for open debates down at Hofstra today. Jill Stein and her campaign team are out there engaging in a large civil disobedience action to get Jill in the debates. The final thing I'll say is that we're going to hear undeniably a bunch of misogyny coming from Donald Trump, just like we expect. However, we really have to enlarge the frame of conversation right now. True, Donald Trump is a misogynist and anti-woman. However, if you zoom out and look at Hillary Clinton's policies of militarism around the world, her policies have been dropping bombs on women and families throughout the Middle East. She's responsible for promoting arms sales to Saudi Arabia, and those bombs are being used now in Yemen, one of the most horrifying humanitarian situations in the world. Hillary Clinton is directly responsible for the coup in Honduras, which has made that country the most dangerous country in the Americas for human rights defenders and journalists, and I think she should be held directly responsible for the murder of indigenous activist Berta Cáceres in Honduras. So Clinton, just because she's a woman doesn't mean that she is standing up for women's rights internationally. She's responsible for the deportations of mothers and children. She's responsible for promoting an economics that is based on sweatshops and the exploitation of female labor around the world. And so I think we're really in a crisis right now because the American public is being denied the opportunity to hear from alternative voices. 78% of voters want to hear from Jill Stein and Libertarian candidate Gary Johnson in the debates. And so we really need to crack open the Commission on Presidential Debates and have democratic control of public debates.
Does anybody else want to say a few words? Okay.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. I graduated from the City University of New York, Hunter College, one of the colleges there, back in 1963. And the amount we paid for tuition was $0. If I remember, we paid $15 at the beginning of a semester in case we broke anything in the laboratory, and if we didn't, we got our $15 back. Even more than that, we got free textbooks. Without those things, I could not have gone to college. And it's very interesting to see how Jill Stein wants to have free tuition at all public institutions in the United States. Notice what Hillary did. Hillary grabbed the idea of free tuition and replaced it with affordable college. Now, what does affordable college mean? Imagine if all of your libraries that now say free public library, we erased the word free and we said affordable public library. What would that mean? That would mean when I go to check a book out, I would have to fill out a means test answer the question of whether I'm living with my parents or not living with my parents, etc. So I may have to get the book for $1 a day, whereas this gentleman here may have to pay $2 a day. And that's exactly what Hillary has in mind. They take away the concept of public support for necessary social services, immediately think in a privatized manner, and then want to milk a profit from it. Trump University, one extreme example, but there are other examples of that as well. So I'm 100% behind Jill Stein. She has plans to cancel out the debt it's actually an illegal and immoral debt that is on the backs of our students. And I'm very happy to be here today to support her.
They said that the elephant in the room tonight is going to be climate change. Okay, we talked about fracking, but fracking is only one little piece of the puzzle. And climate change scares me more than anything, because I think we've already reached a tipping point. And if we don't keep fossil fuels and oil in the soil, then the future of my children and grandchildren is going to be gone. So I just found out that I'm going to be a grandmother, and it scares the hell out of me because my little baby granddaughter or grandson is going to live in Florida. And half of Florida is going to be gone in the next 30 years probably. So it scares the hell out of me. And I just wanted to put that in there, the elephant in the room. So
I think that a big elephant in the room, while a lot of us seem willing to recognize climate change in the recent years, a lot of us are still turning a blind eye to the racial violence and segregation in this nation. I think that one of the big reasons why any of these issues is not going to be resolved or addressed by the Democratic or the Republican parties at tonight's debate is because they are sponsored by the same corporate agenda. Neither the Democratic nor the Republican Party intends to stop TPP, halt corporate influence, stop corporate personhood, or get money out of politics. And I think that's why the debates need to be open. And the great part about Jill Stein is she works for the people. She's not going to push her agenda. She's going to create a system where everybody can get their voice heard and participate, such as in opening the debates.
In the spirit of open debate, I understand we have a representative of Chicken Hawks from Clinton Trump who has a few words to say. And since we're for open debates, you're the spokesman for the chicken?
I don't know. I wrote two things there, I suppose.
Okay, well, give us your side of the argument.
she needs a spokesperson.
We'll say Jill Stein is like taxes. She don't know when to stop. She's out here being an active anti-war candidate. You know, she doesn't seem to understand that there's no money to be made off of peace here. What else we got here? She's just like a tattoo, just gets under your skin. What else we have here? See, I don't know what the big idea is here, trying to end war. We live off of war. She's trying to take the food off our mouths here. And that's about the end of it. We're trying to send other people's kids here to war. We're too busy hobnobbing with Wall Street to send our own. You got anything to say? That's about the gist of it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chicken Hawk, spokesperson.
Of course.
I've been involved in the political process, but what I can't understand is why do people keep voting for politicians of any party? Either party doesn't seem to really care. Is there something in the water? Is there something in the air?
Well, we just had a protest demonstration outside Hillary Clinton's headquarters here in Syracuse because in the presidential debate tonight, two legitimate candidates, Jill Stein of the Green Party and Gary Johnson of the Libertarian Party, are not included. And we're not picking on Clinton any more than Trump. It's just Trump doesn't have a local office. But much more important than these local campaign headquarters are the debates tonight. 100 million people will view in. That's how most people will find out who the candidates are and what they stand for. And Jill Stein is a legitimate candidate for the Green Party, as is Gary Johnson, because they're on more than enough ballots to get a majority of the electoral votes if they were to win those states. And more important than that even is that they represent points of view that will not be represented in the debates, but which, if not majorities of people, large numbers of American people want represented. Stein and Johnson are anti-war, they're anti-intervention. Jill Stein stands for a Medicare for all system, which the majority of Americans in polls going back decades support. That point of view will not be in the debate tonight. We're sitting here in Syracuse. Right down the street, they tore down an affordable housing project, Kennedy Square, and through an inside rigged bid, gave the land to Core Development, which is now under indictment for bid rigging and bribing. That's the Democratic Party. And that kind of fraud is like the fraud of this debate, which doesn't include legitimate candidates, and like the frauds that Donald Trump has perpetuated, and we're sick and tired of it. So that's why we're out here protesting.